And hello, movie lovers, and welcome to the show. So tonight I'm going to be reviewing Gremlins: Secrets of the Mogwai. This is going to be episodes 1 and 2. This is going to be a spoiler review. Also, too, do us a big favor. This actually helps us out on the audio podcast and everything. If you guys are enjoying this, give us a 5-star review. Tell us what you think of the podcast. Tell us, even if you don't like what we're doing, still give us a review. Tell us what we're doing wrong, or just tell us, hey, I'm enjoying your show. So, with that being said, let's go on ahead. Let's get started with the Gremlins: Secrets of the Mogwai. And hello, movie lovers, and welcome to the show. So, like I said, I'm going to be reviewing season 1, episodes 1 and 2 of Gremlins: Secrets of the Mogwai, and this is actually going to be a spoiler review. And just coming off of this, too, I just want to mention this. At first, I was excited at the fact that we were going to get a Gremlins prequel, and it's been so long since we had a Gremlins movie. It's been in the 90s since the second one came out. But then they said they were going to do an animated series. I'm like, well, that's kind of disappointing because I really wanted to see a live action adaptation of the Gremlins. But I was like, okay, well, let's see what this actually looks like. And so when I saw the animation, the thought that came to my head was this. I thought instantly of the Saturday mornings that I grew up in the 90s watching animated TV shows as a kid, and the animation feels just like how you would do when you wake up early in the morning on Saturdays and watch your cartoons. And the animation, the dialogue, everything felt like I was revisiting my childhood all over again. And that's the beauty of this. It was a story that's a prequel, that's an animated series, which is hard to do, especially whenever all the other Gremlins movies have been live action adaptations and we never got an animated version before until now. And I'm actually happy with the first 2 episodes. So let me go on ahead, dive into this thing. So when we first meet Gizmo, he's just chilling out, relaxing, not shooting some b-ball like Will Smith or anything, but he's just relaxing, chilling out in his Mogwai community somewhere in China in the 1920s. As a giant bird attacks the creature's compound, he steps out to the plate, throwing rocks at their invader to try and help save his people. But eventually he winds up attached to the bird as it flies up and away from his home. After crashing into some brush, Gizmo and the bird land into a river, but luckily for the Mogwai, he drops onto a piece of driftwood, which keeps him dry. But he does. But here's the thing: he does display a. He winds up. Let me look. Sorry, my notes are kind of messy a little bit. I just need to go through my notes for a minute. But basically, he winds up. Sorry. Um, But luckily for the Mogwai, he drops onto a piece of driftwood, which keeps him dry. But he does display a fear of the water, which is something that I'm happy that they did with the animated series because of the fact that when you're doing a show like this, it needs to be in continuity with what we know so far when it comes down to the Gremlins, and they keep with the mythology of this. So that's something I really liked about it. They didn't change anything up, they kept everything the same, which is something I'm very happy about. But he does display a fear of water. Phew, when the driftwood would finally reaches land. He's found by a traveling circus that claims he is one of their own. And they keep on calling him like a dog cat and stuff like that. And they instantly think of him as money, as dollars, that they're going to go out and make money off of Gizmo. And even though they think that they're one of him, they still want to try and profit off him. It kind of reminds me of that whole entire thing when you think about it on Pinocchio, where you have the circus, the traveling circus, and that guy is trying to sell profits off of Pinocchio and trying to make profits off of him. And that's the same thing that I thought of instantly whenever I saw the circus trying to make money off of course, Gizmo. So that's a little thing that I thought of whenever I first seen that. And then, you get into this other thing too, where in Shanghai, we actually meet the Wing family, which includes a 10-year-old Sam, his parents Fong and Han, and the boy's grandpa. Grandpa's a Willie character. Let me just tell you this. I love the grandfather. I think that he's one of the most lovable characters in this TV series, and something's going to happen to him in the second episode. I'm not going to get into it right now, even though this is a spoiler review, but there's stuff that happens within the second thing that caught me in the feels for the grandpa. And I knew that they were going to do what I thought they were going to do with this character because of the fact that when you lay out somebody that is trying to go on an adventure with their grandson, or whenever you look at the continuity within the fact that you have the chemistry built on a grandfather and grandson, chances is the grandfather's not going to make it. And now it's going to be that grandson that's going to carry the torch throughout this whole entire season of the Gremlins. And I'm just going to tell you this: they do a fantastic job of capturing who the grandpa is, and I definitely like how the grandpa is not afraid of anything. He's like, "Well, Sam, you need to go out and do your own thing. You need to go out on your adventure." And Sam is basically on a 21-year plan, even though he looks like he's like 9 or 10. And basically, I think he's just basically trying to do what his parents wants him to do versus what he thinks is what he wants to do. But that's just me looking into that kind of thing a little bit deeply. But I like how the grandfather goes, "Hey, look, you need to go on your adventure. Come on, we're going on an adventure." And it feels like I'm watching the Hobbits, basically, where we're all going on an adventure. And so, anyways, Sam and Grandpa go over to where the traveling circus is, and that's of course where we meet Gizmo. And this is what winds up happening. Grandpa takes the boy to the South Market, which is his home to thieves and pretty much Rasputicans. It's there that they run into the aforementioned circus that introduces Gizmo to the crowd as their new singing cat dog. Like I said, that's what they call him. They call him a cat dog, and that's something I thought that was hilarious because they don't even know what this thing is, but yet they're going to profit off of it. And also too, it puts themselves in danger because what happens if they feed him after midnight? What happens if he gets blind? What happens if they shine some light in his eyes? And I'm going through all the what if scenarios with the circus because I'm thinking that they don't know anything about Gizmo to the point where something could happen to them. But yeah, a group of shady kids led by Ellie, which Ellie's watch along, commenting on how Gizmo is just what their boss is looking for. So I do like Ellie. I definitely like Elle because of the fact that, you can definitely tell she's pressured in by her boss to do this. And she's basically like the kid from Baby Driver, where she's trying to pay off this debt to this guy. And then once that debt is paid, she can go her own way. But of course, with most villains and stuff like that, it never pans out for that character that gets caught with and works for that person, unfortunately. But yeah, so then after that winds up happening, um, Gizmo is just what their boss is looking for. Okay, once the Mogwai's little costume hat falls off, Grandpa has a versatile reaction. If they leave the circus now, Shanghai will be doomed. Okay, well that seems dramatic, pops, but Gramps. But here's the thing: it may seem dramatic to him, but once he actually explains to his grandson Sam on why it's dangerous for them to even have the Mogwai and why the grandpa wants to go ahead and take the Mogwai from the circus so that way it doesn't endanger them, then it becomes where it's like a rescue mission to try and bring um, Gizmo back to his own people. And let me just say this: I thought the whole entire deal where you actually see where Gizmo comes from was so magical. It was fantastic. I definitely liked the outlook and the stuff like that. But yeah, so, but yeah, Grandpa explains the Mogwai are mystical creatures that no one has seen for centuries. The last time one was left in a human's care, cities burned, people died, and China was nearly obliterated. They must take the Mogwai, he says, but before they can snag him, Ellie offers a huge wad of cash for Gizmo, and she offers that over to the circus. And this is where it becomes like a rescue mission. And also, too, I just want to mention this: I thought the whole entire hat that falls off of Gizmo was hilarious. It has like a little fruit top kind of thing, and then all of a sudden, because Gizmo's dancing just like how Pinocchio would dance, and then all of a sudden it falls off, and then they close the curtain, and then there's someone actually breathing fire, And they go on to their next gimmick, which is the breathing fire bit that they try to do. And this is where everything comes into place on that. But I thought the breathing fire thing was actually pretty funny because it goes to show you how low budget the circus actually is and how much of a con these people are, because of the fact that they basically have the same material over and over again. They do this every night. They don't. The only thing that they have, and the only reason why they want Gizmo is because of the fact that none of their other stuff is even bringing them profit. So, what better way to do that than to profit off of something that nobody even knows about, not even for themselves? But yeah, then Ellie offers a huge wad of cash for Gizmo. Grandpa causes a big distraction, and after Gizmo bites the gang leader, he's off and running after some rompy yet why animated commotion. Sam and Grandpa convince Gizmo they won't harm him, and he agrees to go. Now, the bit that I thought that was funny was the breathing fire bit, and I'm going to explain why. Because as this is going on, Grandpa's like, "I'm going to distract him." So what does he do? He pulls out this little smoke bomb or this exploding little marble, and it explodes at the same time that the guy is trying to breathe out the fire, and it ends up making it look like, in fact, the guy who's breathing the fire out is the one who made that big, huge explosion, which it wasn't. And it was awesome in that timely manner on how they handle that. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then, you know, they wind up running after Gizmo. Gizmo is afraid of them. And I like the fact that Gizmo is afraid and doesn't know if they should trust him or not. Just like how whenever Dave winds up going and taking Gizmo, and well, not but basically Dave's grandfather winds up bringing Gizmo home with them, and Gizmo is still unsure about who this family is. And just like how underneath the lenses and everything too, Gizmo does not know who to trust at this moment because he's away. He's abandoned his home. He's in a place that he doesn't know or anything like that. And also too, I like how the grandfather tells Sam of the legend of what happens whenever you feed them after midnight and why he's panicking. And the animation was just fantastic as far as the flashbacks go, because it actually shows you the destruction that these gremlins do if something winds up happening to the Mogwai. And I thought that was actually pretty cool how they put that into context. They showed us. They didn't just tell us, they showed us. And I believe that sometimes things should be shown, and they showed us the destruction of what happened whenever his grandfather was around, when Sam's grandfather was around. And yeah, so they go home, and Grandpa immediately starts packing. They must return the creature to his home, the Valley of Jade, where Gizmo is from, and it could be a potentially deadly journey. Before they can discuss it any further, Sam accidentally knocks over a cup of water onto the little guy, and within seconds, four more weirder looking mugwais sprout out, of course, leading us to our very first rule: never ever get them wet. Whoops. But yeah, um, another thing I liked was when the grandfather was like, "Well, look, we have to go ahead. We have to do this rescue mission, and we're gonna go out on this adventure." Sam's like, "Yeah, good luck with that. I'm gonna go on ahead, and you go your way, I'll go my way, and peace be on with you," basically. And that's something that I thought that was really funny in the comedic sense because of the fact that Sam does not want any part of it. Even his own parents don't want him traveling with his grandpa or anything like that too, because the grandpa is full of shenanigans and stuff. But yeah, I thought that was actually pretty funny. But yeah, whenever Sam accidentally knocks over the cup of water onto Gizmo, you see them popping out just like how they do, popping out of his back and everything, and just like how they do in the movie from the 80s. And then he's like, "Oh, so that's what happens when you get them wet." And so they get them wet. There's multiple ones now, and now they don't. Now they have to go ahead and try to bring them all back into Jade. Now, not just one Mugwai. Now you have to deal with like 4 or 5 Mugwais at that. And then it leaves us with this at the end of the premiere where Riley Green, the gang's boss, is peeved that his Mogwai went missing, but he's absolutely tickled when a flyer for the family's medicine practice lands in his hands. So he knows where the Mogwai is, and the grandpa already knows that they're in danger. They're thinking that the circus people might come after them. and things like that too. Ellie also winds up telling Riley where they are basically too. So now we are dealing with Riley coming over into the next episode and trying to do some destruction to the family. So now we're going to go into episode 2. In episode 2, Grandpa lays out some additional rules, and this is actually the same rules that applies to the first 2 Gremlin movies. And I'm glad that they did this as a callback for people that are just getting into the Gremlin stuff and things like that too, especially little kids, or if you're someone that hasn't grown up with the Gremlins or anything like that. This is a great introduction into this world of the Gremlins. But Grandpa lays out some additional rules: no bright light, no feeding them after midnight. Shortly after Ellie and Green knock on the door, Green rightly guesses that Grandpa was a treasure hunter back in the day and demands the old man hand over the creature. Grandpa uses a magical rattle drum, just like how Daniel Caruso did in The Karate Kid 2. It just basically puts it in between his hands and starts rubbing it, and these magical powers start coming out from the drum, which was actually pretty cool. It kind of reminded me of Star Wars, Light Side and Dark Side, and I liked how they play off the narrative of the Chinese culture of a white sorcerer and a dark sorcerer, and about how the two sorcerer and the blending of those two things. I thought that was actually pretty cool. But Ellie and Green knock on. Okay, so another thing too is how Ellie knows that the grandfather was a treasure hunter. He goes, "Well, I can tell just by the look of your clothes. For instance, you have holes in your clothes. The way you walk, which he's very. I would have to say the way he walks is not straight up or anything like that. He has very poor posture, which also indicates that he's been in underground caves and things like that. So he's like, well, by the way, like you look and walk and everything, you used to be a treasure hunter, and not a very good one at that, because of the fact that you have holes in your clothes and also you're working in this little shop. So therefore, you are not that good at what you're doing. And of course, the grandfather's like, no, 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 I'm not a treasure hunter or anything like that. And I like how how Riley is basically asking him, so are you a curist or do you practice any kind of medicine? No, 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 that's my daughter. My daughter's out of town. It's fine. I'm by myself here. And of course, the family and everybody else is hiding in the room along with Gizmo because they're all about to leave because they know their lives are in danger. And so, as that's going on and everything, because he thinks that the grandfather thinks that he has the upper hand with Riley. And so, at that point, he winds up basically trying to figure out another way to get rid of him. And this is what winds up happening. But Green then whips out some pearl magic, which pulls Grandpa's soul into a little sphere that he then consumes. It's one thing to put you in a little sphere. At first, I thought he was trying to suck the grandpa's soul out of him, but he not only does he pull his soul out of him, but he puts him in the sphere. And I'm like, okay, so he's just going to be collecting him because of the fact that he's also a treasure hunter. But that's not the case. He winds up putting him in the sphere, and then he winds up opening his mouth gigantically wide, just like how in Coneheads, whenever the teenage daughter was swallowing that big, huge Subway sandwich that Chris Farley's seen. That's exactly how he swallowed the sphere. And he swallows the sphere, and then not only that, but I didn't even know that he can basically, whenever he does that, he can also pretty much go through the grandfather's memories and stuff like that. So he actually knows the plan that he had laid out for Sam to escape. And I thought that was actually pretty neat. Like, just because the person's gone, their soul is still stuck inside them with their memories. So therefore, he can feed off those memories and look for them. So that was actually, I never knew that they could do something like that. So I thought that was a little interesting take on the mythology part of this Mogwai TV series, though. So after that winds up happening, Fong, Sam, and all the Mogwai escape while Han stays behind and gets captured. Shortly after, Fong lures the bad guys away from an alley and tells Sam he needs to take the Mogwai to the Valley of Jade alone. But while Sam and Gizmo nap, the four Mogwai clones begin in raining hell upon the neighborhood. They slash bike tires, terrorize restaurants, and steal all the dumplings. Yum, yum. But yeah, and you know, whenever Sam is like just really hurt because of the fact he just lost his grandfather, he doesn't know what to do. He's on his own now. His mom decided to distract the Riley's gangs, and he's just all distraught right now because of the fact he has no one. And this burden is too much to bear just for him. He doesn't think he can do it. You also have this one part where Gizmo is just trying to be there for him, and of course Sam winds up crying, and then there's a little tear fall, and then Gizmo almost gets wet again, but Gizmo luckily moves out of the way before that could happen, and then they both fall asleep in this alley. And then you see one of the gremlins. What they do is they cut with their fingernail, of course, and drill a hole into where the carrying case is in this wooden box, like we saw in the movie. And then they escape, and then they go over and slash people's tires as people are riding on the bikes. They go over to the dumplings place, steal some dumplings, eat after midnight. Next thing you know, you have a cocoon of gremlins that's being ready to hatch. But yeah, Sam and Gizmo find a whole bunch of evil gremlins waiting to hatch. The result of Mogwai eating after midnight, no doubt. But before long, Rain tracks them down before the big bad can do any harm. Illy knocks him out with a walk and tells them she's coming with them. And let me just say this, when she hits Riley with the walk, it's hilarious because she ends up doing it not just once, but twice. And I thought that bit worked for me because of the fact that you need some lightheartedness within this darkness itself to make this TV series work. And then you also have the henchmen who also get hit with the walk as well. And I just thought that, and they get hit like twice or three times, and there's bruises on them. I just thought that bit worked. It wasn't overly done. It wasn't to the where it's like, okay, we've seen this 4 times already or 3 times already. And they did it twice doing the bit, and I thought it worked. I really have to say that bit worked for me. So Sam and Gizmo find a whole bunch of evil gremlins waiting to. Okay, sorry about that. Just not. Okay. So after that happens, she promised to help him, and she'll only take a smidgen of the Valley of Jade's treasure, just enough to keep her outrun green for the rest of her life. And they strike a deal to work together, and she says she can send a message to his parents who are being held in a magical prison. The first step in her plan: steal a pair of keys and jump aboard a passing train. Okay, so we got a little bit of action going on over here, but I like how she knows that what she's doing is wrong, and she's also pressured by Riley because of what's going on. And she's even scared of him because of what happened with the grandpa, and she's afraid that's going to happen to her. And she's also knows that she's never going to be able to pay her debt to Green or anything like that. So, what better way to try and work out a deal with Gizmo to try and get some gold or some treasure to where she can run from Green. So I thought that worked out pretty good. And then when Green wakes up, he is greeted by the evil gremlins that have just hatched from their egg-shaped cocoons. And that's where they leave us at. So after the eggs wind up hatching, this is what winds up happening. You can definitely see the evil glare coming from Green's eyes, just like how the gremlin's red eyes are shining through us and we're afraid of them, but he's embracing them because now he can control the Mogwai because now he's no longer after Gizmo now. He's like, okay, well, the city of Jade, I'm not going to worry about them because I have my own army of gremlins here, so therefore I can go ahead and command and do as I wish. And if they get out of line, guess what? I can pour more water on them and make an ultimate army, and therefore Shanghai will be in distraught to the point where there won't be anything left, just like how Sam's grandpa felt about whenever they told us about it. So yeah, so I definitely like where they're going with this animated series, and I'm very excited to be able to review the rest of these episodes because I think that this is a great way of actually doing a prequel series. I think this is a great introduction into the Gremlins world for people who may or may have not seen the Gremlins. And even if you have, this will be a great extension onto the first two films and gives us great some new characters to look at. But yeah, I thought the Gremlins, the first two episodes were really good and it's fresh. And yeah, I can't wait to see more of this. So, what do you guys think of season one, episodes 1 and 2 of the Gremlins Secrets of the Mogwai? It is now streaming on Max, and I think that's a stupid name for a streaming service, but yeah, it's actually streaming on Max, not HBO Max anymore. It's just Max. And so, yeah, go on ahead, check that out. Tell me in the comments below if you liked this review. Give me a 5-star review. Also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you guys get your podcasts at. It actually helps other people to find your podcast. And that's everything as far as tonight goes. And always until next time, guys, have a great and safe night. And I hope to see you guys back later on. Bye.